A very good morning to all the delegates. I welcome you all for this day 4 sessions of this FDP on translating pharmacognosy knowledge into healthcare system. The speaker for this 10th session of this FDP is Dr. Rajendra Bhojnala, Senior Scientist, Analytical R&D, the Himalaya Wellness Company, Bangalore. The topic of his presentation is Advances in Phytochemical Analysis, Synchronous with Regulatory Perspectives. Dr. Rajendra Bhojnala, he is an active resource person associated with our institution, Belgaum, as well as with other institutions. He has actively participated in many of the FDPs, and he has shared his expertise, and delegates have given a very positive response in terms of taking a takeaway message with respect to analytical R&D, and he was very graceful enough to accept our invitation to share his knowledge again with you all in this FDP program. So with this, I request Professor R.V. Kardi sir to introduce the speaker of this session. Rajendra sir, am I audible, and shall we start?
Yeah, sir, sure. I'm ready for it. Hello. Hello.
Shall we begin, sir?
Yeah, sir. Sure. Am I audible,
Okay.
sir?
Yeah, very much.
So, good morning, everybody. Myself, Ravindra Karadi, and it gives me pleasure to introduce today's guest, that's Rajendra Bhojnala, who has completed his degree in College of Pharmacy, Chikbalapura, and a PG in Alamin College of Pharmacy, Bengaluru. Has also completed his MBA and pursuing his PhD in SRM University, Chennai. So he has been trained in fundamentals in LCMS analysis conducted at Simazu Training Center, Bombay, applications of NMR for biopharmaceuticals and protein analysis conducted at IISc, Bengaluru. And he has the analytical experience in various companies, and presently he's working as a senior research scientist in R&D sector at the Himalaya Drug Company, Bengaluru. And he has worked earlier as a scientist in a Biocon Group and assistant manager in Cadila Pharmaceuticals, Bengaluru, and R&D senior research officer, Actavis Pharma Development, Bengaluru, R&D senior research associate, Chemwell Biopharm Private Limited, Bengaluru. And he has achieved so many articles, and few of them will be, he has won the best paper award for the presentation at the International Symposium conducted by Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Scientist of the Year award at the Himalaya Drug Company for the year 2015-16. And he has published so many articles in the national and international journals. And his present responsibilities will be this team leader, executed so many daily activities and planned based on the project needs itself. And method validations and technology transfer has been done. And method transfers activities from R&D to quality control, preparation of STPs, method development reports, method validation protocols, and monitoring the execution of the same as per ICH guidelines, and the qualification of working standards, and training the freshers and team about the GLP and ICH guidelines by means of our presentations, conducting analytical method validation training programs, stability studies execution and reporting, project management related to analytical activities, GLP studies management, instruments procurement, and handling lab setting procedures. So in this brief introduction, I once again welcome Rajendra Bhojnala sir and all the delegates for this FDP. And I request Rajendra Bhojnala sir to proceed with the topic. Thank you, sir.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much for that good introduction of myself. And good morning to one and all present presenters and organizers for today's presentation. The topic of the day is advancements in phytopharmaceuticals analysis, synchronous with regulatory perspective. I'm just sharing my slide now. Is the presentation visible, sir?
Yes, sir. It's visible. Please kindly raise the volume, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yes, sir. Very clear.
Yeah, thank you. So for better network capability, I have just switched off my video. So at the last, I will be switching on my video so that we can get in touch personally for the question and answer sessions if anything is there. Please bear with me.
It's fine, sir. It's fine.
Yeah. So once again, good morning to one and all present for today's presentation on the topic of advancements in phytopharmaceuticals, synchronous with a regulatory perspective. As introduced myself, Rajendra Bhojanala, working as a senior research scientist in analytical R&D from past 8 years in Himalaya associated with. Now Himalaya is called as Himalaya Wellness Company and not the Himalaya Drug Company, because now we have all the products ranging from food, cosmetics, animal health products, and wellness products. So now Himalaya has become Himalaya Wellness Company. Coming to today's topic, we have seen that the herbal industry has grown from $62 billion to $11.2 trillion in a matter of 15 years. We can see from 2005 to 2021. It is mainly because of reasons like safety assured when consumed, more efficacious extractions available comparative to modern, equally comparable to modern medicines, lesser side effects even on usage for longer periods, multiple benefits like cure from existing diseases and prevention from recurring of certain diseases is simultaneous in the treatment. And they can be used with minimal consultation or self-medication is also possible based on the symptoms and traditional knowledge. So we have seen the popularity increasing in a matter of 15 years. Coming to herbal products category. Herbal medicines can be categorized as, the first one is traditional medicine, wherein the knowledge mentioned in the Ayurvedic books like Charaka Samhita, Ashtanga Hridayam, Bhava Prakasha, and other books are also available. Or the household medicines knowledge is also transferred from generations to generations based on the experience also. Second is the patent or proprietary medicines, wherein the exhaustive research activities are conducted for isolation, characterization, and efficacy of the herbs or herbal ingredients in the treatments. Third one is the dietary supplements or the nutraceuticals, which are the present trend in the herbal medicines and are used globally. As we know, these dietary supplements look like drugs and are made from food, isolated food ingredients or food-like substances, which augment the health when consumed. And the nutraceuticals improve the health status of the individual by modulating the body functions. Fourth one is the cosmetic products, which are mainly for the beautification of the body. And the fifth one is phytopharmaceuticals, which are medicines with pure active substances that come from plants or parts of the plants. And another point that phytopharmaceuticals and chemicals or synthetic drugs have in common is they have controlled clinical trials conducted on them. In this slide, we can see the growing popularity of the herbal drugs and the wide range of applicability has caused the shift from household scale to large scale production of these herbal materials. Due to this shift and to meet the demand and supply, a lot of regulations and checkpoints have become mandatory to avoid adulterations, maintain quality of the indigenous materials, and contaminants or toxins are also on priority as they are stored and used for longer periods. In India, we have certain regulations to guide these herbal medicines like AYUSH, which is Ayurvedic, Unani, Siddha, and Homeopathic department for controlling the medicinal herbs. And we have FSSAI, that is Food Safety Standards Authority of India, to impose controls on supplements and nutraceuticals. And we have CDSCO, that is Central Drug Standard Control Organization, which now takes control of the guidelines or for These bodies control or keep a check on quality and safety of the products in India. Based on the increasing demand of the herbal products, each and every country has made their own regulatory bodies for prevention of the adulterations, toxins, and other contaminants, and to ensure the quality and safety for the consumer. Globally, we see WHO, ISO, USP, European Pharmacopoeia, Food and FDA, that is US Food and Drug Administration, and these are certain other regulatory bodies taking care of the commercialization and utilization of the herbal products. And this is generally called as farm to fork approach, as it goes from cultivation to table of the consumer. As the herbal materials are produced in larger scale to cater the global requirements, there are certain challenges to overcome also. In the developmental stage, the cost involved is very high, as these are newly studied and no prior data is available for us for certain materials, or only a crude form of data is available with us. Once developed, the second stage is manufacturing. In the manufacturing stage, these are technical barriers of handling the drugs. Storage and the manufacturing requirements have to be fabricated and utilized, which is a big challenge in the present situation. Next stage is marketing. In the marketing field comes the regulatory aspects, regulatory barriers, the patent barriers, as there are new entities and no prior knowledge is available for justifications or for claiming purposes. The safety aspects, as individual molecules is not studied, or sufficient data is not available for us to convince the authorities. Next comes the profitability aspect, as these are new form of medicines with less knowledge or on their performances, and the safety of the stakeholders are hard to convince. And get the returns on the promotional spends, which are made to make the concept understand by a common man or the practitioners, and to compete with the competitors is a very big major challenge now. With this little intro on requirement of need for regulations, we will move forward and see why we should analyze these herbal materials when they are considered as safe. It is because we have to standardize the materials what we are using to maintain the same quality, efficacy, and safety when consumed. Secondly, to check and prevent the adulterations, as there are wide varieties of species available with similar and less efficacy or can cause side effects when contaminated also. As these contaminated products when consumed may pose safety concerns, we have to analyze the materials. And moreover, to meet the regulatory requirements of the products, which ensures the purpose of the drug consumed with benefits to the consumer. When we are analyzing, what are the things we are looking for exactly? So when we come to this one, it is a chemical composition when isolated products or group markers, that is like total tannins, alkaloids, or polyphenols, which are known for their activity, are being standardized. The physical properties of the herbs or products being manufactured and consumed should be analyzed. The microscopical properties which are specific and distinctive for identification of the herbs from their adulterants or contaminants should be taken care. And the sensorial evaluation is also important for maintaining the aestheticity or palatability properties of the product. Coming to the challenges in the research area for analysis or for quality control are adequate sampling techniques, as these raw materials are obtained from different parts of the plant or as a single part or combination of different parts of the plant. The heterogeneity, which poses uniformity issue in sampling the material. The variations of the seasons, geographies, and bulk quantities which are used for manufacturing makes sampling more complicated to get a homogeneous sample for analysis or to obtain reproducible results. The heterogeneity and sampling errors always poses a greater uncertainty in the measured values. This always questions the method of analysis chosen for analyzing the samples and the results obtained. To overcome this, we should have screening approach in analysis or multiple sampling approaches, which involves time, money, and other resource utilizations. Ultimately, cost is involved. Generally accepted trend for overcoming these problems is to provide very low rate of false negative analysis and acceptable range of false positive analysis, which is by the choice of methods and sampling techniques what we utilize. In the earlier slide, we have seen some product development challenges, but when we come to the real-time challenges in the analysis, we face challenges with the complexity of the matrix as discussed. As they are being analyzed, these are all natural compounds. We are not aware of the chemical nature of the molecule present and the diversity of the analytes, also because of the variations due to sampling techniques, heterogeneity of the sampling, different parts mixed up or used, seasonal variation, geography of collection, pre-harvesting and post-harvesting procedures, and storage conditions. One more aspect is the ever-growing list of analytes as they are going on adding, means like the regulatory bodies are going on adding the research data and studies conducted for the unknown molecules. The unknown molecules are to be characterized and determined as they can be useful or harmful as the research continues. Now, coming to the specific advancements in the field of herbal or phytopharmaceuticals, we have seen a tremendous improvement in the instrumentation of the traditional, we can say the basic traditional TLC technique by the automations in the field of sample spotting as accurate spots with the defined length, height, and width, providing good reproducibility of the patterns developed. Well-conditioned equilibration chambers with the spraying automations and minimal manual interventions are available now. Not only identification of the bands, but also quantification of the bands developed is also possible by interfacing the scanner. Like this is the simple scanner what we are using, but when we are interfacing it with the advanced techniques like densitometer or mass spectrum analysis, the direct identification of mass or when it is interfaced with IR for direct fingerprint establishment is also possible. From all these developments, we get development data at 254 nanometers, 366 nanometers for fluorescent compounds, white light, simple fingerprint pattern, and derivatization after spraying. And with further hyphenations will provide characterization data as well with the quantification data. With the structural identifications is also possible. Simple preparative plates are also available for basic analysis, which wherein we get a lot of concentrated bands, which can be directly scraped and taken for further analysis also. In this slide, we can see in detail how a band developed. See, this is the band developed. This is a band developed, we can say. From the DLC is linked into the laser interface from where the band is targeted and siphoned by an aliquot of solvent into the concentrated mass detector, or IR interface can be further attached to this one for further characterization data, which minimizes the procedure of isolation and concentration of compounds and helps in getting sufficient data in a single stretch from the basic TLC technique itself. Here we can see the sample before siphonating with the solvent, and here we can see the sample has been siphonated from the aliquot of solvent and introduced into the further hyphenation of mass or HPLC or simple IR. So taking as an example, siphonated into mass detector, here we can see in this slide the obtained mass spectrum from the specific TLC band of interest. This is the specific band of interest which was siphonated, and this is the mass obtained for that band. This QDA is one of the simplest mass detector and is a portable mass detector which is developed by Waters India and provides mass spectrum at an immediate or faster rate than compared to the conventional mass spectrometry instruments. Coming to the advancements in chromatography field, in the HPLC field, we see all these detectors like UV detector, photodiode array detector, fluorescence detector, refractive index detector, ELSD, that is evaporative light scattering detector, charged aerosol detectors, and mass spectrometers. The recent advances are usage of ELSD and CAD, that is evaporative light scattering detectors and charged aerosol detectors, which are becoming universal detectors for both qualitative and quantitative purposes, as major detectors to characterize the compounds separated by chromatography. The advancements are not only hyphenation techniques, but there are also improvements in the basic chromatography itself with respect to the vast range of chemistry in the columns available today for better retention of polar compounds, increased resolutions, and peak shapes. The decreased particle size of stationary phases, like sub 2 micron columns are also available, and pharmacopoeias have approved the usage also. HILIC, that is hydrophilic lipophilic interaction chromatography, the HILIC columns are also available as the recent trend where we have options to play with the mobile phases for better separations of the peaks and without compromising with the sensitivity of the instrument. UHPLC, that is ultra high performance liquid chromatography, is one of the advancement in the instrumentation where it can withstand higher pressures up to 1000 bars and more. The sensitivity is also increased with the smaller dwell volumes and faster injection speeds with less carryover. This less carryover means it helps in increased output with quality analysis. Decreased runtime with shorter columns is also possible with same capacity as compared to longer columns. This is one more advantage. And coming to the hyphenations, hyphenation is a largely used technique in current scenario, and it is nothing but the customization or clubbing of two or more individual techniques or part of the technique to meet the requirements of the analysis. The combination is usually for achieving separation, where we can see utilization of SPE or LVI with HPLC is possible. And for separation and identification, where we can connect it with the different instruments like GC, HPLC or column chromatography. And third reason is for identification and characterization also. There is separation, identification, and characterization. That is, as I showed you in the first slide, we have just spotted the TLC where it is used for separation, hyphenated with MS detector, that is for identification and characterization. There are a lot of options available for this hyphenation, like different separation techniques are available like GC, HPLC, and detection techniques are also available by different detectors like PDA, IR, mass detector, NMR detector, or simple TLC detector is also there. And further hyphenation is also possible between combination of these two detectors or these two techniques also. And here are some of the hyphenated techniques I have just listed, which are very most frequently or commonly used. That is GC-MS, LC-MS, LC-NMR, EC-MS, GC-IR, LC-MS-MS, GC-MS-MS, GC-GC-MS, GC-NMR, GC, HPLC, IC-MS, and IC-ICP-MS. Now coming to the advantages of these hyphenated techniques, as per the slide, it provides fast and accurate analysis. It provides high degree of automation. It provides high sample throughput, which gives better reproducibility, reduction of contamination due to its closed system, as we are introducing the sample and getting the data directly without any intervention or interference by a person, and separation and quantification is achieved at the same time. As per this slide, all of these hyphenations have prepared us to meet the new requirements of the regulatory bodies and the new entities which are of safety concerns in the field of food or phytopharmaceuticals, especially like mycotoxins, impurities, ethylene oxide impurities, which are used for sterilization of the crops or products on storage, pesticides, PCBs and PCB like furans, what we call it as a polychlorobiphenyl compounds, and some of them are in packing materials also and storage materials also, like phthalates and leachables like inorganic ions are also can also be estimated by using these hyphenated techniques at a better sensitive scale. And when we are talking about the leachables or the impurities which have to be determined by using the hyphenated techniques or the advanced techniques, let us see some of the contaminants or toxins what we are talking about or regulatory bodies more concerned about. First one is mycotoxins. And these mycotoxins are the chemical substances or toxins which are produced by some of the molds of Penicillium species, Aspergillus and Fusarium species, to mention few. And when an apt environment of heat and moisture is present, as these are indestructible by normal procedures or normal processing methods also, like extractions or normal boiling, they tend to get carried forward into the finished product. And these cause adverse health effects for both humans and animals, and it can go to an extent of acute poisoning and even cancer also. In this slide, I have shown different regulatory bodies which are prescribing limits for the control of these toxins, which we can see to the levels of 20 ppb. Here in Argentina, we can see it is 20 ppb for aflatoxins. Brazil, it is much lower than 20, that is 10 ppb it is prescribing. And Argentina requirement when grouped and individual, like these aflatoxins are combinations of 4 toxins, that is B1, B2, G1 and G2. Where B1 is proved to be more carcinogenic than compared to other 3 toxins. So individual regulatory body is even prescribing the limit for B1 individually and group of aflatoxins together also. And as per Argentina requirement or US requirement also, this B1 is should be estimated at the level of 5 ppb. If milk or milk products are part of the finished products, then different regulatory bodies have prescribed for the analysis of M1 impurity. And it goes up to 0.5 ppb or even 500 ppt level also in this milk-based products. Coming to the second category of toxins or contaminants, residual solvents are one of the most important problems, as they are volatile chemicals which are of concern. As they are involved from the raw material stage, that is maybe as an inherent property from the herbs or materials, raw materials used, or by the process of cleaning or any other processes where organic solvents are involved. It goes up to the finished stage also, as they come across through many processes of extractions, isolations, recrystallizations, and the formulations involving granulation, coating, and other processes. Few major concerns in these residual solvents are benzene, which is mainly an carcinogenic compound, and it goes to the limit of 2 ppm. And presently, one of the major concern in these residual solvents or residual materials is ethylene oxide. Now it is becoming a very trending issue now. For any product to be exported should be free from ethylene oxide, as ethylene oxide is one of the gas which is important for sterilizing the product and keep it away from these microbial contaminations. These residual solvents are classified into class 1, class 2 and class 3 solvents as per the ICH guidelines, and is followed and is generally approved by almost all regulatory bodies. And benzene comes under the class 1 category, which is mainly categorized as carcinogens for humans, and environmental hazards are also posed by this. And in the hyphenation, in the gas chromatographic technique is with the headspace analyzers are one of the most advancements in the analysis of residual solvents or any other residual solvents like leachables, pesticides, benzopyrene, bisphenol compounds, and others are analyzed by using this hyphenation in the GC technique. The further automation and technologies are also available to enhance the sensitivity of the instrument, wherein we are using the technique what we call it as static headspace technique or dynamic headspace technique. These two techniques are available in hyphenation of GC for improving the concentration of the analyte what we are injecting into the GC. Sampling techniques like static headspace, where the sample is evaporated and a glass syringe is used for injecting the sample. And in the dynamic headspace technique, which is also called as a purge and a trap technique, wherein the evaporated sample is collected into a solid adsorbent. This is a solid adsorbent, what we see here. This is a solid adsorbent, or what we call it as cold trap, wherein the sample gets adsorbed and concentrated, and a purge of gas is utilized to move the adsorbed material into the detector, which will be very concentrated in the analyte of interest. Other techniques are also available, like low volume injections and solid phase extractions are also simulated with this GC technique to enhance the sensitivity of the instrument or the analyte to a greater extent. These pesticides are another set of compounds wherein environmental protection agencies and many authorities have fixed the rules in usage or presence of these pesticides in the finished products. Pesticides may be used as a targeted pesticides like insecticides and herbicides for protection of the crops. Or they may be of chemical nature like organophosphorus. They can be classified as chemical compounds like organophosphates and organochlorine pesticides, which are used for enriching the growth and yield of the crops. The hyphenation of GC headspace with mass detector, and particularly with triple quadrupole or time of flight detectors, which is the latest trend followed in GC and LC, have gained more importance in analysis of these residuals, that is pesticides. And different countries have different specification limits for pesticides based on the availability of the chemicals in the respective countries. Like few countries have certain pesticides what they are using, and they are banned in certain countries, or import regulations are there for usage of certain pesticides over there. So we cannot regularly harmonize the use of pesticides or make it a like fixed pesticides for analysis. So based on the country of what is the country of interest you are exporting the product, you have to analyze the pesticides as per that country requirement only. The other residues are dioxins, which are called as persistent organic pollutants or POPs, meaning they take a very long time to break down, and once they are in the environment, these dioxins are very highly toxic and can cause cancer, reproductive and developmental problems. They cause damage to the immune system and can interfere with hormones also. The highest level of these compounds are found in soils and food materials, and especially dairy products like meat, milk. These products are highly contaminated with these dioxins. And these dioxin impurities are of high importance when the medication especially is targeted for longer terms, longer usage periods. One more regulatory body is WADA, that is World Anti-Doping Agency, and NOPS. These herbal drugs or the functional foods are consumed for bodybuilding purposes also, or for increasing the stamina of the human body. So these organizations like WADA, which is in Canada, test for the substances which are prohibited to be consumed or present to be present in the finished products, and especially by the sports people who are using these products for body increasing the body stamina. Similarly, this NOPS, that is Naturally Occurring Prohibited Substances Organization, is one more organization which keeps a check on the naturally occurring substances in our drugs or foods, which are prohibited, like caffeine, theobromine, theophylline, atropine, scopolamine, morphine, thebaine, and codeine. So these are few of the substances which can be an addictive forming agent or which are used for modulating the body functions. So in this slide, we can see that the regulatory bodies have come up with so many specific analytes for analysis and control that we require instruments with more sensitivity and specificity for these analytes. One incident to recall in this requirement is the melamine incident in 2008. As we all know that usually the way of analyzing proteins is by Gjeldahl's analysis, where we estimate the amount of nitrogen which is present in the compound, and by using a conversion factor, we estimate the amount of total proteins. But the test has lack of specificity and determines the whole of nitrogen present in the compound, which is a drawback. And the food was poor, and when the food is spoofed with melamine, that is adulterated or contaminated with melamine, to increase the values of proteins in food material, it also gives the same values of proteins. But this melamine is a very serious compound which gives a lot of side effects when consumed as food. So nowadays there are techniques like HPLC, LCMS, and other techniques are also available which can differentiate the analytes specifically to avoid these kind of adulterations. In this slide, we can see the structure of melamine and its congeners, which are rich in nitrogen. So all these nitrogens will contribute in the analysis of Gjeldahl's method, but this is not exactly which is contributing for the protein value of the food. So we need to be analyte specific, and hyphenation gives a very good advantage in this analysis. When the sensitive instruments are used, it is necessary that the sample preparation is also meeting the standards in this regard. We have many techniques, and one of the most recently used and advanced technique is the Quechers technique, which says Quechers means it is nothing but quick, easy, cheap, effective, rugged, and safe technique. So this is now well accepted by all the regulatory bodies, and all the pharmacopoeias are also developing techniques by using this Quechers technique. So what is this Quechers means? It is a kits which are available as a combination of salts like magnesium sulfate, sodium acetate, citric acid, and graphitized carbon is used for tint removals, fatty matter removal, and moisture content removal is also possible with this kit. And primary secondary amine, that is PSA salt, is also added for maintaining the pH of the solvents, and C8 and C18 is also a combination of this kit, which is used for retaining the analyte of interest. This technique involves the pre-treatment extraction. The pre-treatment in the sense the sample is homogenized and it's mixed with this salt. It is vortexed for 5 minutes, kept it aside for separation, which gives the extraction of the analyte of interest. The extracted material is then again centrifuged, and the supernatant clear liquid is transferred into the vials for further utilization into GCMS or HPLC or whatever the hyphenation technique you are interested in. As these 3 steps for samples preparation is involved, this is a very simple technique, and as the name suggests itself, it is a very simple technique and more rugged technique which improves the extraction of the specific analyte of interest. In this slide, we have seen the difference between the utilization of this Quechers technique, which is used for LCMS, MS analysis. Here we can see the liquid, after liquid extraction, the concentrated material or the junk material is just going down, and a clear amount of liquid is present for analysis into the LCMS or more sensitive techniques. And coming to much further contaminants or residues analysis, heavy metals are another category of contaminants which are defined in ICH guidelines. As well as there are many main concerns which are involved with this analysis of heavy metals, as they are uncontrollable levels in the herbal materials which are taken for the longer periods. The raw materials are cultivated and collected in crude forms. Contaminations with soil is common when we are collecting the materials from farmers. And the minerals are taken up by the plants as part of their nutrients for their growth, which gets carried into the extracts. When these extracts are further taken for the formulation of finished products, they get carried over, and removal of these contaminated metals in the finished products or in the raw material stage is a very big challenge. Generally, lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury are considered as the four major challenging elements, metals to be removed from the drugs or products what we are consuming, and these are called as big four elements. These are mainly causing toxicities and liver damages, so these are of main concern. Some minerals are active. Why these only four minerals are considered as major means because of the side effects, but other minerals can also be present as part of the nutrients required for the plants or for the as part of the formulations, which can be considered as micronutrients like copper, sodium, potassium, selenium, etc. These elements which contribute as micronutrients also. So there are stringent guidelines framed by regulatory bodies for control of these heavy metals in the drugs and food products. Few guidelines calculate in terms of parts per million of these four elements per gram of products present, or there are certain stringent guidelines like Prop 65 from Canada, wherein we have more stringent guidelines and it calculates in terms of dosage or consumption per day based on the body weight, wherein much like 1/10 of the limits can be further made restricted by the Prop 65 guidelines. Here we have given certain general limits for different, which will be followed by different countries. Like we have Ayush, and Ayush, as I told you, is an Indian body, and LATAM limits where we see that lead is specified as 10 ppm, cadmium is 0.3, arsenic is 3, and mercury is 1 ppm. These are the general limits followed by almost all the regulatory bodies, especially European, US, and Indian markets. US markets has made little bit of a stringent limit for lead. From 10, it has decreased to 5. And here I have not given the Prop 65 limit, which depends on the dosage and body weight of the person. And this 5 ppm can go up to 0.5 ppm also for certain drugs where it is consumed for longer periods. Some preparations for the analysis of heavy metals is also one of the more challenging requirement now, and it is also modernized by the usage of microwave digesters, where we can digest the samples completely under pressure and using high temperature under the influence of microwaves. The solvent used for digestion normally is nitric acid, and with a combination of other acids like hydrogen peroxide, sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid can also be used in the combinations based on the rigidity of the matrix or the complexity of the matrix, wherein we can preserve the volatile metals like mercury and achieve greater accuracies in the results. As this mercury and arsenic are little volatile than the other comparatively to cadmium and lead, this closed technique of using microwave digester helps us in greater recoveries and producing more accurate results. This is always having advantage over the traditional technique where we use just a simple incineration technique or hot plate technique for preparation of samples for heavy metal analysis. The hyphenated instruments in this analysis of heavy metals are ICP, this ICP-MS, which is inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometer, ICP-OES, which is inductively coupled plasma optical emission spectroscopy, and this atomic absorption spectroscopy, what we call it as AAS. By using these instruments, we can analyze heavy metals up to the range of ppb and to the level of ppt also. where we can estimate more than 60 to 70 elements in a single run. And this single run for estimating the 60 to 70 or profile creation of these heavy metals takes maximum of 5 minutes. The matrix effects can be minimized by the use of by the utilization of different instruments like AAS and ICP-OES instruments. And when more sensitivity is required to PPT level or sub-PPT level, we can use the instrument ICP-MS. This speciation is one of the need of the hour, as we are moving from herbs as a whole formulation to extract or even to the standardized extracts, and now to more specific phytopharmaceutical levels. Hence, more and more safety aspects and studies are coming up into the place. And the more recent problem with respect to speciation requirement was poisoning of fish. We saw it in Kerala recently, where the fish is contaminated with mercury impurities, and especially more amount of monomethyl mercury was present, which is more predominant in acidic water and more and this monomethyl mercury is more toxic than the other form of mercury which is available, that is dimethyl mercury. So the fish which is growing in that acidic environment was more contaminated with this monomethyl mercury, and the same when it is consumed by a person has this toxic effects or adverse effects. If the analysis, like a traditional analysis, if we perform only for mercury, then we will miss out the toxic form of monomethyl mercury, which is causing the major damage. So we have to analyze in specific, not mercury. No, we have to analyze in particularly like monomethyl mercury and dimethyl mercury content also. And one more example we can quote simply is, as I told you, chromium is used as micronutrient also. But when chromium is present in the trivalent form, it is useful as a micronutrient for the body. But when the same chromium, when it is present in the hexavalent form, is very much toxic for the body and is suspected as a carcinogen. So not only the analysis of heavy metals in general is required now, but regulatory bodies are looking into more and more specific form of the elements which are present in the drugs or food material what we are consuming, and this is called as speciation. So a lot of, as I told you, these hyphenated techniques are available for analysis of heavy metals, and this hyphenation is very much important in speciation also. Like we have this speciation hyphenated instruments for separation, extraction, and detection. The hyphenation techniques what we can use in this analysis is HPLC hyphenated with ICP-MS, GC hyphenated with ICP-MS, and ion chromatography hyphenated with ICP-MS. Here I have given a simple example of hyphenation of ICP-MS with ion chromatography for resolving the ions and then estimating them individually. As we are seeing in this example, we have different species of arsenic present, like DMA, that is dimethyl arsenic acid, MMA, that is monomethyl arsenic acid, arsenic acid, and arsenious acid, which are separated by ion chromatography and then estimated by using ICP technique. But when we are using only ICP-MS technique, we can estimate it as only as a form of arsenic. And we can see that we have seen in the earlier slide that arsenic limit is 3 ppm, which is prescribed by regulatory bodies. But when we go individually into in-depth by connecting it with an ion chromatography, we can see the different forms of arsenic which is present in the compound and estimate which is the major contributing entity, and go for the further toxicity studies or safety studies. When we are talking about herbal drugs and phytopharmaceuticals as the active contents of which plays an important role in the deciding of the product utilizations, the authentication of plants or herbs is one of the most important criteria which is important for claiming as a material to be organic or as a normal material. And separated where we can separate it from GMO adulterations, and identification of geographies of the plants is also becoming more important to prove the for industry as well as for the consumer for getting a more standardized drug. IRMS is one of the technique that IRMS means, that is isotope ratio mass spectroscopy. It is an important advancement in this regard, which is now used for finding adulterations in greater food products and herbal products, especially in case of honey, where it is used for identifying the sugars from natural sugars or artificial sugars, that is synthetic sugars. This technique estimates the ratio of isotopes like elements for carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and other elements, and the ratios are fixed for compounds with natural origin and compared with synthetic origin, which will be a different form of compounds. So the estimation of these isotope ratios in this natural form and the synthetic form will give you an idea about whether it is authentic material or contaminated or adulterated material. Trace elements will also act as a geochemical markers, which are estimated by ICP-MS techniques. And finally, mass detectors are used for comparing the mass fragments, which are helpful in profiling the mass fragments, and they develop a fingerprints of these mass fragments and authenticate the compounds. Some of the examples of IRMS applicability, which is, as I told you, it is a recent trending analytical technique, can be seen in this slide. It is used for differentiating natural and synthetic pure aroma samples. Like benzaldehyde is estimated, which is a major contributor and is present in only natural substances, and it can be identified whether it is a natural benzaldehyde or synthetic benzaldehyde intentionally added. Natural versus synthetic caffeine is also identified now by estimating the isotopes of carbon and oxygen. And it can distinguish agricultural and synthetic practices like organic versus conventional producers, and differentiating between GMO and non-GMO products, and distinguishing from farmed and wild. Farmed from wild cultivations also, like geography, identification of geographies is also possible. This technique is also used for identification of fraudulent sugar addition, that is in honey, wines, and gelling formulations. Basis of all the requirements from major regulatory bodies. Basis of all the requirements from major regulatory bodies, this is the generalized specification which we normally follow for European countries, and these details have been provided for a product to get registered in the country. So here we have to analyze all the parameters like pesticide residues, heavy metals, microbial load, aflatoxins, and all other contaminants like dioxins, hydrocyanic acids, some of dioxins and PCBs, dioxin like PCBs, non-dioxin like PCBs, and these are some of the different aflatoxins, mycotoxins which are present like DON, zearalenone, melanine, fumarisin B1 and B2, T2, H2 toxins, and other general requirements also. So here we can see how many new additions have been made into this specification as part of the detection for toxins or contaminants or adulterants. To give some of the examples of the present problems which we are already aware of, where companies and customers have faced huge losses and safety concerns, which have made regulatory bodies think about revisiting of the guidelines. One issue is that MAGI, issue of presence of Ajinomoto, that is monosodium glutamate, MSG, at higher concentrations was detected, and this was detected by using an ICP-MS technique. Presence of Salmonella bacteria and E. coli bacteria in the nitrogen-filled Haldiram snacks, which is banned in US now. And the gluten content percentages causing allergies, and by usage allergies when it is used, and there was a lot of trend which was running on by showing that there is Ashirvad atta or wheat atta is contaminated with plastic materials. But it is not a plastic material. It is a gluten percentage which is in higher or lower concentrations, which was causing that elasticity when it is washed continuously with water. But due to some gluten allergies, this is also kept under control. And we have seen when the compounds are not analyzed properly, like for example, in this Cadbury's chocolate, we can see the zygotes or worms which are present when it is stored for longer periods or until not in usual storage conditions. All these problems have called for industries to promote the products with respect to quality aspects, and not only in brand this thing, they are promoting the brand with respect to quality aspects. And we have seen in this trend, like to give an example, we have Saffola honey. Now it is not claiming only as natural honey or authentic honey. They are claiming it as more qualitative honey by giving it as like helps build immunity, and it is mainly like NMR tested and no added sugar or no artificial sugars are added to this one. So now they are also coming into this more individual specific aspects of analysis or authentic aspects to build their brand images. So I'm concluding my presentation with this one, sir, and thanks to each and every one of the participants for patiently listening to my topic, sir. And thanks to the organizers, like especially Dr. Hassan Pasha, sir, for providing me an opportunity to be a part of this wonderful program. Sir, now I am open for any doubts or clarifications, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The session is open for discussion. Whoever has their queries can put forward for clarification. I think Chitra madam had some questions. She is available.
Yeah, I think it is there in the chat box.
Chat box, yes.
Which technique is best for detection of alloxon in food? Yeah. Madam, for this one, alloxon impurities, we are detecting by two different techniques. One is GC-MSMS and HPLC, LC-MSMS technique. So both are possible, and it only depends on how much concentration you are looking into. So if you are looking for a better sensitivity of these compounds, we can go for LC-MSMS technique, because we have time of flight detector in that one, which is a high resolution mass spectroscopy technique, where we can go for a sub PPT levels of detection also.
Any other questions? Madam has requested to share your email ID. That I will do it. Email IDs of all the resource persons I'll be sharing in the WhatsApp group. You can contact them.
I think Dr. Chitra has asked one more question. Which method is best suited for detection of adulterants in food, either LCMS or others such as TLC, HPTLC, UPLC, etc. As I answered for your previous question, the same is applicable for this one also. It all depends on the concentration of the analyte what you are looking out, and the complexity of the matrix which you are taking up for analysis.
So being academics, from my side, one question is there that's related to this. What is the percentage or importance is given to the microscopy of powder drugs? Because we include most of the times, there's in the syllabus, we mention the powder microscopy, but in the industry level, what is the significance of that? Whether they are considering it or simply we are performing those things? Because most of the department, they will be answering that's you are taking some powder drug and you are analyzing it for some of the characters. So how you are going to decide the drug itself?
Yeah. Sir, as I told you, microscopical characters are one of the important parameters till days. So whatever the level of authenticity you are generating by using all these DNA barcoding or any other techniques also, microscopy is having its own importance. Especially when the powder form of drug is checked for this authenticity, there are few characters like leaf characters or like palisade ratios or whatever it may be, like crystals, oxalate crystals estimation. These things cannot be changed by modern techniques also. Till now, we are following the same technique for especially basic authentication of the materials. So still it is a part, like TLC, we cannot neglect it as it is a basic technique, we cannot neglect it. Though HPLC or LC has come into picture. but that basic techniques has its own importance. And when it comes to industrial level, the cost of the material or the analysis is also important. So we cannot use an hyphenated or hi-fi technique for common basis, like simple analytical requirement. So microscopy is still having its importance in industry, and it's basic technique what we use for authentication.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir. There is one more question. That is in the Himalaya drugs, most of the times you are using the Ayurvedic drugs itself. Yes, but to what extent you are using this Siddha system of medicines? There's any medicines that is related to the Siddha system?
Right now, we are not using too much of Siddha medicines in this one, sir. Only it is a part of Siddha medicine, like we use like bhasmas and churnas, which is also a part of Siddha medicine. So we are also using those kind of medicines, maybe it's like formulations in our Ayurveda. So it is only like a part from is taken from there, but 90% or more or less we concentrate on Ayurvedic formulations only.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Another question by Mamta madam. Sir, can you elaborate on Quasar sample preparation kit and the cost if it is used in academics?
Yeah, as I told you, this is a combination of different salts like magnesium sulfate, citric acid, sodium citrate, primary secondary amine, C18, C8, like these kind of salts are utilized. Here we have two different, as I told you in the slide, maybe I didn't brief too much in that one. We have three different procedures. Like first one is pre-treatment, extraction, and post-treatment. So the combination of these salts can be managed for our three purposes. Like for pre-treatment, if you are using raw materials or substances under analysis, which is having too much of moisture content and too much of tint material, there we can use different amount of salts like magnesium sulfate, sodium citrate combination. Then in our extraction methods, where it is compound is like too much polar or non-polar of interest, there we can optimize the concentration of C18 and C8. Then in our primary secondary amine for post cleanup procedure to maintain the buffer and analyte of interest in our eluent, we can optimize the concentration of PSA. So all these three procedures are having three different combination of salts can be used, and these can be optimized based on our requirement. So the cost is also like same, like parallel with the salts requirement. So if you are using less amount of salts, less amount will be there. If you're using like a lot of tint material is there where you need to use graphite carbon at a higher range, like 50 mg, 100 mg. So your cost also will increase. If it is a simple white material where you don't have any color interference or any tint material, you don't have to use graphite carbon at all, unless your product is contaminated with or enriched with or having too much of proteins or fatty material in that one. So it all depends on the nature of the material what you are analyzing. And this is a very robust technique. Once it is developed, you don't have to worry about any interferences also. So to optimize, cost is involved, but it can be used for academic purposes also. Because in your academics, if it is a part of your practical or something which will be carried over for 1 or 2 batches or like for certain period, once the method is developed, you can just show them or demonstrate using the same material or same kind of combination of salt. So you don't have to again and again develop the method for that one. Once developed, it always is applicable for the same matrices for a longer period of time. That is the reproducibility of the method. So you don't have to worry about the cost. Initial development cost, yes, it is involved, but can be a part of your academics also, because this same sampling technique is applicable for a lot of other matrices also. Once the sample is enriched, analyte is enriched, you can use the same sample for different analytical techniques. So different samples need not be prepared also.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Maybe it is a trade secret. I just want to put forward this question.
Yes.
If there are certain crude drugs which are getting extinct and not available freely, and instead of that, you are using a substitute which contains a very low concentration of a marker compound or a biomarker compound. In such cases, is there anything like a synthetic compound is added to enhance the bioavailability or bioactivity of that particular herb?
There are different approaches for this one, sir. Especially what you told is the citrus. So that there is a company called Citus, where it is an main organization for checking these endangered species which are used in preparation of drugs, because they cannot cultivate it, or the plants itself cannot be cultivated as such, which are available in crude form, or in different forests and all, only restricted to certain geographies, or certain kind of restrictions will be there. But when we are using those compounds which are of listed in Citus, we try to see the alternative. As you told, a lot of other species are also available which will be having that content. Unless until it is a very specific content or a very specific analyte which is only traceable for that material, we go for a lot of general harmonizations, like as I told you, group markers like tannins, polyphenols, or alkaloids, or saponins, or whatever the kind of material which is in a group marker, where the same kind of properties can be incorporated into the drug with the new material also. At that point of time, we try to optimize the dosages or extraction procedures, or standardize that new material which is used as an alternative for the Citus drug.
I came across an information with respect to saffron. As we all know that saffron can be cultivated only in the northern Himalayan region, Kashmir region. And nowadays, new techniques have cultivation have come up, like hydroponic system, where they have cultivated into bulk, but the only worry is the biomarkers. So there they have found a very low concentration, and they are trying to add synthetic compounds into that to enhance its quality. So
yes, and for this, particularly for this saffron, as you mentioned, for the saffron cultivation, not only by hydroponics they are utilizing now, but they are trying to use make it as a tissue cultured callus also. Yes. So now present trend is that tissue cultured callus, which is having more, like, it's economic as well as with high yields are also possible.
Yeah, in a smaller space, you can grow this crop. Any other questions? Yeah, one more question by Chaitra Madam is, does your institute promote any outsourcing for sample analysis?
No, sir. Right now, we are not doing it for any other labs. It's purely for Himalayan thing only. We are not helping out for any analysis as an outsourcing authority.
Yeah, delegates, I request you all once again, please interact so that we can make the sessions more interesting, at least for the people who are silently only listening. Let it not be a monotonous, let it be a dialogue. Do you want me to take out their names and ask to interact? Because I know many of you all. It would be more interesting if you can interact. Okay. So if no questions are there, on behalf of KLE College of Pharmacy and on behalf of our team, I thank Dr. Rajendra sir for accepting our invitation and sharing his expertise. Though you all know that industry people, they do not have much time to share their expertise except on Saturdays and Sundays, but still sir could take out his time and reschedule according to our plan. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much that you accepted.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure is mine, and I am always open for any queries or any doubts for clarification. As you are sharing my email ID also, so yes, definitely we will be in touch with each other.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you,
so the next session is at 11:30 a.m. The speaker for this session is another eminent scientist, Dr. K. Suresh Babu sir, Senior Principal Scientist, Center of Natural Products and Traditional Knowledge, CSIR IICT Hyderabad. The topic of his presentation is recent approaches in natural product research for drug discovery. So I request you all to be to log in at 11:15 a.m. And once again, I request you all, at least for the next session onwards, you please be interactive so that we can make these sessions a fruitful one. Thank you.